Hey. It's one of those noise boxes. It's got white noise and that's calm, and then it's got relax. And then there's white noise. Rain. I listened to that all night last night. I was sitting here reading. And then the forest. And then the ocean. I think this will kind of go with the book. I don't know. Sitting here. Ange got a hold of me. And then as soon as I got back on, he came up, I immediately got back on there. When I got back on there, he disappeared. But I just told him what I needed and see if he could guide me. I don't want to use and abuse him. This one is also a dark romance, but it's a Christmas romance. It kind of goes along with Santa Claus and elves and stuff, so I may get to use my witchy voice tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Could be interesting. So I haven't slept since 7 o'clock yesterday morning. My alarm went off. Can you tell? My hair's a mess. That's where I've had my glasses up. So yes, I sit my glasses back there. And it sticks up. I haven't had her out in a while. It'll be hard to get my. I have to really work on that one. Is that annoying right there? See right here? Is that bad? I think I'm going to crash when this is over with. Jackie! What up, sister? Did you get to do any reading? Bency, you gotta get this book, sister. You can get all 3 books for like $6.97. If you need me to get them for you, just let me know. I'll be glad to get them for you. Because I haven't been asleep since 7 o'clock yesterday morning. I sat right here in this chair and read that book all night long, thinking it would put me to sleep because I couldn't go to sleep. At 1:30, I got up. I'd been tossing and turning and everything else, and I got up and came in here so I wouldn't keep Mister up and Big Daddy up, and came in here and I just sat here and read all night. Man, time was flying by too. I was like, damn. Yeah. Matter of fact, when I got off the couch to come in here just now, I was reading that book. After the second chapter, though, it starts all the sexy stuff starts calming down, and he gets more back into the the beef of the meat of the. Oh, I better sleep good tonight. I better sleep good tonight. I'm gonna check my cabinets in the kitchen. I thought I had. Oh, crap. I have to cut the music off. I need my cord. I ain't got batteries in this thing yet. Ori! I ain't talking to you. Bitch. You don't have to talk to her. You're not required. Hey Jackie, send some of them boogeymans over to her house or her mama's house or wherever the hell she's at. Cause I ain't talking to her today. I replaced her. Vincey's. You and Vincey are my new BFFs, and Princess, yes, and Princess is. I now love Princess more than I do her mama. There you go. That'll teach her to ignore me. I only half read what I say. Oh, not today. Don't even go there with me. We both know I love you a whole lot more than you love me. And not today. Maybe after I get some sleep, but not today. Because I totally lost patience with you today. If you'd have been standing right here in front of me, I'd have strangled your ass. And it wouldn't have been good like in the book. I'm just saying. Did you get any reading done? No. Even though you're going to sit right down there and get it. Has anybody got my book yet? Figured out what book I'm reading Sunday? Don't make me hire Jackie. Did you figure out what I'm reading Sunday? I know who I'm reading. I just don't know what book I'm reading. Hi, Medea. Will you take a frying pan up the side of your child's head for me, please? Oh, you read the book today. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that book's good. It takes a little bit to get into it. But damn, once you get into it, you're like, okay. Man, this girl's rocking it. Yeah, I know. I just don't know which one. Because Vincey messaged her, but she hasn't responded back to Vincey, but then she might not know who Vincey is. And my other PA has just been totally useless today or this week or whatever. I don't even know. I'm gonna have to fire and then I'm gonna double Vincey's wages. Yep. Well, we messaged Lori to see if Lori, because we do try to go through the PAs. We try to be responsible adults in here, but sometimes that don't work, as you very well know. Oh, good job, Beth. Aww. Okay, y'all ready? It's called Nicholas. The author's probably not gonna be here. She's in Australia. All right, it's called Nicholas's Nightmare. It's the second book of A Midnight Hour. It's by C.E. Lashua. I hope I'm saying that right. And there's the cover. And it's very paranormal, but it's also a dark romance. There's trigger warnings. So anybody that watches the video, please be aware there are trigger warnings. It just says a dark romance. It doesn't tell me what's going on. So beware. All right, prologue. The holidays are a fucked up time. Amen, amen, and amen, which has got me all fucked up. Christmas is definitely no exception. It may seem like a holiday about family and spending time with loved ones, but that's nothing more than a farce. It's turned into a consumer holiday, hell bent on getting the most money possible out of people. It's no longer about family. Who needs to spend time baking together when Christmas cookies can be bought at the store? It's no longer about loved ones. Who wants to sit around a piano singing carols off tune? It's no longer the thought that counts. Who cares about a handmade gift if it isn't the most expensive present they have that was opened? What does it matter in today's technology age? But it does matter. It matters to Santa. It matters to the elves. Soon it'll matter to everyone. Because when Santa finally comes out to play, he's not so jolly and nice. The craziest things happen in the midnight hour. So, Nina, you better watch out. Because here comes Santa Claus. Chapter 1. Aubrey. The table was too sticky. I was sure the workers in the Steamin' Mugs coffee shop hadn't gotten around to cleaning it yet. They had more pressing matters to attend to, like making cute little hearts on top of customers' coffee. The long sleeves of my sweater kept sticking whenever I'd forget and sit my arms down, leaving tiny fabric hairs behind. The coffee in my hands was far too hot to take a sip of, so I settled with wrapping my hands around the cup, warming my fingers. It was getting very chilly outside, with snow starting to fall anyway, so I suppose the heat of the liquid was helpful in its own way. I should have just left. I didn't want to be there in the first place. Mom thought I needed to get out of the house and socialize more. I understood her thinking, but a blind date with her coworker's son was definitely not my cup of tea. I preferred Earl Grey, and the situation she put me in was more of a lemon zest flavor. It didn't agree at all with my palate. I didn't have any inkling where she had gotten this crazy idea from, but I certainly didn't care for it. It would have been much happier. I would have been much happier sitting behind my desk in the library taking on extra shifts. I'd much rather have been reading a book than worrying about my lack of social skills. My job at the San Francisco Library was the only place I seemed to feel comfortable and not out of place. People made me uncomfortable. Amen, sister. It wasn't really their fault, it was mine. I felt awkward wherever I went, as if I didn't quite understand those around me. I noticed that most of them tended to make decisions based on whatever emotions they felt in a particular situation. Very strange indeed. Did it not make more sense to choose a logical course of action to reach a goal? Emotions would merely inhibit the path to get there. In a way, I envied them. There was something In a way, I envied them. There was something freeing about the thought of letting go, losing all inhibitions, and allowing all of my defenses to fall. However, that was mere thinking, daydreams that would never come to pass. I sighed, sitting back in the hard wooden chair. They might have looked very uncomfortable with their beige cushioned seats, but they were very deceiving, instead, adding to the tension in the air surrounding my body. That's when I noticed an old couple sitting 2 tables away. Perhaps they could even tell how off kilter I was feeling. They looked the way I'd always imagined high school sweethearts growing old together would. The man held the woman's hands, whispering into her ear, making her blush. They were adorable. Well, they would have been if the lady hadn't kept looking at me every 30 seconds. Strange. Maybe she was curious about my hair. Most strangers were. It's past the point of being blonde and more into sheer ivory territory. I didn't hate the color, but I wasn't obsessed with it either. People tended to blatantly stare, though, which was mildly irritating. I tried ignoring her, but she was already in the back of my mind by that point. Every time I glanced away, I found myself looking back and meeting her fluorescent emerald eyes. The hue hypnotized in the way it captured my gaze. I heard a cough above my head, effectively breaking me out of my trance. Raising my head, I caught a pair of brown eyes looking down at me. Brown. How dull. He was handsome, though. More than handsome, really. With short, dark chestnut hair and muscles that seemed to take up every curve of his body. He was the type of man I would see on the covers of Mom's smutty sex books, or as Princess likes to call them, naked books. Mama's naked books. I wouldn't be caught dead reading those things. I preferred more classical books, but I loved to sneak a peek at the covers when I could. Aubrey, he asked. His voice sounded like I expected it to. A deep baritone that would make any woman's knees quiver from holding his attention for even a moment. Any woman except me, however. Yes, I answered, a little bit miffed that he dared to intrude on my solitude. He apparently didn't feel the same way if his answering grin was anything to go by. Great, he exclaimed as he sat down in a chair across from me. His smile got a little tighter as he shifted his body weight from one side of the seat to the other, attempting to adjust to the chair. They really were extremely uncomfortable. Perhaps I should have made a suggestion to the management about them. As I was thinking this, the man across from me held out his hand. I'm Jared, he said. I looked at his hand for a moment before taking it, realizing a moment too late that this must have been the man my mother set me up with. She could have at least had the decency to tell me his name. It's nice to meet you, I replied, giving him a tiny smile. That's what people are supposed to say in those situations, right? It must have been the correct response because Jared seemed to relax slightly, which is crazy to think because there's no way he would have been nervous about all of this too, right? I'm sorry my crazy mom is putting you through this, he said while rubbing the back of his neck with his hand nervously. Same to you, I replied. My mom apparently thinks I need to date more, unconsciously giving a little snort. After realizing what I had done, I covered my mouth with my hand quickly, making my glasses slip down my nose. Those things sure didn't help with the sex appeal. Okay, that's a different one. I slowly looked up at the man across from me and found him staring at me with an amused tilt to his lips. Clearing my throat, I glanced away while adjusting the glasses back to the rightful place. My eyes wandered for a moment, coming to rest on the little old couple again. The woman wasn't pretending to look any way anymore. Neither was the man. They both full on stared at me while I sat frozen in shock. Strange. Forcing every fiber of my being, I glanced back at Jared, who also hadn't stopped staring at me. Only he didn't look amused any longer. He had more of a glazed over look to his eyes that seemed to stare straight through me. I glanced around the shop to find that everyone, customers and employees, were all facing me with the exact same look on their faces. I stopped when my eyes caught a man standing behind me, peering down over my shoulder. 3 men, to be exact. Big, burly men. Men that made muscles much more defined than Jared. Damn, did I just, girls, I'm not going to waste that voice. That voice is going to come back on one of these 3 burly men. I'm sorry, I only got 3 burly voices. One of them ain't that burly. They seemed to tower over me, bright azure eyes glowing in the sunlight. They looked like identical triplets, from the fierce glare in their gaze down to their imposing stance. Each man had long silvery hair flowing from their backs, giving them an ethereal look. Miss Aubrey, one of them asked. For the life of me, I couldn't pinpoint which man had spoken. Oh, good, they can just all have the same voice. I was too busy focusing on their otherworldly qualities, like their skin that was so beautifully snow like it was practically glistening. It's called body glitter. Whoever it was, his voice was lyrically perfect, making me want to sing him a tune in return. And I was far from being a great singer. Not that anyone had ever heard me to give any type of judgment. Miss? I managed to squeak out. Honestly, I was surprised I managed that much. They smirked in sync as I melted where I sat. Oh my damn. I was finally starting to understand how all those women feel in mom's romance books. Maybe I should give them more of a chance. We need to speak with you, one of them said again. It was like they were all one being, forcing me speechless in one fell swoop. I stared. I couldn't manage to get another word out if I tried. It was weird. The person sitting there definitely wasn't me. I don't act like that around anyone, especially of some muscles and a pretty face. We need you to come with us, one of them added, attempting to spur me into movement. Each of the men held up a hand toward me and waved it in a circle. Sparks flew. My ears are ringing now, sorry. Sparks flew with every turn of their wrist, faster and faster until they formed a giant circle outlined in fiery embers. I looked through the circle but didn't see them standing on the other side of it. I saw snow. Not the same as outside the coffee shop window, which lined the cityscape either. No. This was miles and miles of snowy terrain, hills of snowbanks, and a giant castle in the far distance. Before I could blink, the cute old couple from earlier were standing next to me, one on each side. They looked at me for a split second before grabbing my arms and turning to the giant hole in the middle of the air. Hey! I was getting exceedingly nervous. Wait! In the next instant, they pulled on my body, forcing me through the hole with them. One minute, I felt the warmth from the heater in the coffee shop, and the next, I was sitting on one of the snow hills with white flurries kicked up all around me. What in the ever-loving fuck? I whispered. Oh, I would be beyond pissed if they did that to me, because money does not like snow. Chapter 2, Nick. My lips twitched into a slight smirk as the girl landed flat on her ass. She was different than I remembered, more clumsy and doe-eyed. Even from this distance in the castle's tower, I could recognize the vibrant blue of her eyes, making no mistake of her identity. It was her, all right. There was also no masking the fact that she was different. I could vividly recall her running through the snowbanks, tossing snowballs behind her as I gave chase. Her long, sheer hair dancing gracefully in the wind as the snow flurried around her. The tips of her ears peeking through the strands, slightly reddened from the effects of the chilliness. Laughter carrying over the space between us, lighting up her eyes. But now, that laughter was gone. She appeared restrained and cautious, as if she didn't have any memories of her surroundings. The tips of her ears were hidden, and there was no trace of magic exuding her, as if she was a mere human. That was no doubt her wretched mother's doing. The child scrambling to her feet in front of me was no match for the predators awaiting her. Not as she is now. She'd need training to become the woman she's meant to be. The Queen. Hello, Miss Shirley. I felt another smirk coming on as the girl scrambled to her feet, trying to keep pace with the elves sent to retrieve her. How amusing it was. Oh, bring me an elf. I would end up with Will Ferrell, or worse. As I started to turn from the windows, I thought about how much enjoyment was to come as I imagined breaking her spirit all over again. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of frost in the lower corner of the window. Frost that was not supposed to be there. The windows and walls were all protected with the magic of the elves to keep the cold out. A mere cold chill penetrating the magic was unthinkable. So there was only one plausible explanation. Raising my head up high and enveloping myself in the courtly manner expected, I turned to face my longtime friend. There he stood in all his icy glory, as if he had been there the entire time. He most likely had been, to be honest. He was that sneaky. His hair was spiked into fine points resembling icicles, much shorter than it should have been, much shorter than what was acceptable for royalty. The clothing clinging to him looked nothing more than painted onto his skin, as if the frost permanently fixed the shirt to his body. He stood there, unmoving, unwavering, challenging my very assessment. Unsure how he got past the perimeter, I continued looking him up and down until eventually he gave me a grin of his own. Hello, brother. Even his voice sent chills tumbling down through the air in waves. Hello, Jack. I did my best to remain calm, as if seeing him from so many years didn't make me secretly ecstatic. It's been a while. Yes, it has. The toothy grin on his face never faltered. Clasping my hand in front of me, I made every effort to keep my features neutral. He, how did you get in? Leaning back against the wall, he gave me the same leveling gaze in return. I have my ways. I tilted my head in response until he finally sighed, relenting. You forget, brother. I used to live here. Yes, I said slowly, dragging out the word, until you decided to randomly disappear without a trace. His features instantly tightened and he stood up straighter, the air surrounding us giving off chilly frost. Randomly, he sneered. It wasn't random and you know it. I sidestepped to the right, blocking his view of the party on their way to the castle. This already shitty situation would turn even sour if he saw her, and I couldn't allow that to happen. Thankfully, the mention of his abandonment distracted him. Unfortunately, it brought up that topic, which neither of us wanted to acknowledge. You should have done something. He dropped his voice so low I was sure he had even spoken. His eyes never wavered as they stared straight through mine. You should have stopped her. You should have. I didn't miss the way his hands tightened into fists at the memory. What are you doing here, Jack? I needed to change the subject and fast. Everyone in the castle was getting ready, preparing for the lost princess's arrival, and no one was around. I couldn't risk a fight. If I was being completely honest with myself, I didn't want Jack's temper to get him caught or thrown in jail. But you didn't. The sound his teeth made when they ground against each other put me on edge even more. You chose, but you didn't. You chose not to. I narrowly avoided being slammed in the face with his ice hard fist. Shit, this isn't good. He was angry, and when he's angry, he tends to lose control. Proving my point, a barrage of icicles came flying at me, ready to pierce every inch of my body. Thankfully, all of the required combat training was paying off. I managed to dodge all of them. With my attention diverted, Jack snuck his way into my defenses, connecting his fist with my jawline. His other hand moved at equal speed, shoving one of those deadly pieces of ice into my side. Holy nuts, it hurt like a bitch. The cold started seeping through the ice into my wound and traveling throughout my body, leaving little pinpricks in its wake, making themselves at home in my veins. The intense surge of magic sapped me of my own energy, making me gasp for breaths. Blinking rapidly, Jack shoved his face into mine. I lost you. I lost her brother, and it's all your fault. I never thought I'd see the day when Jack would be overcome with so much hatred for me. In that moment, I remembered all of the times he'd sneak out after curfew, dragging me along in his mischievous adventures, smiling with not one damn care in the world. Not now. I'd probably never see that Jack again. If I'll never forgive you for what you've done, he snarled, wrenching the icicle out of my body, replacing it with a fist. Clutching my sides, I doubled over, gasping for breath. Fuck! I couldn't believe I let him get the upper hand. I could feel him make an escape with a sudden gust of wind surging through the corridor. Just as well. I didn't have it in me to chase him down. As much as he denies it, this castle is still his home. I deserved every punch he threw me and more. If it would take away all of his pain, I'd do it in an instant, even if I had to self-destruct myself in the process. I deserved a far worse punishment for what I did. Chapter 3. I leaned against the wall in the hallway around the corner, just long enough to catch my bearings. I knew it wasn't safe to stay in one place too long, with the castle always on the lookout for me. But the ice chilling in my veins was getting colder by the second, and I needed to calm down. Maybe it was a mistake coming back. Probably. I was more difficult than I imagined seeing Nick again. All the memories of our time as children came flooding back as soon as I laid eyes on him, cutting away at the ice wall around my heart, chip by chip. If I was smart, I would have stayed away. But if all of the rumors I'd been hearing were true, there was no way I could have stayed away. I clutched at my chest, willing my heart to stop beating so frantically. If only it was that simple. If Aubrey had finally come back home, there was no way I was letting her go again, even if I had to freeze the entire kingdom to find her. Even if I had to shatter the world to keep her safe, I would not fail her. Not again. Chapter 4. Wait. Oh, it's Aubrey, sorry. Chapter 4, Aubrey. Wait, I pleaded, trying to get my feet. Every time I attempted, my hand slipped through the fluffy flakes, making me fall fall face first into the snow. At least the little old people was walking surprisingly fast. They didn't notice my embarrassing falls. On the other hand, it took everything I had to climb to my feet and sprint to catch up with them. Sprint is a loose term. I should say wobbled as I attempted to keep my balance. Where are you two going? Where are those other men from the coffee shop? I finally caught up to them, grabbing a hold of the woman's arm, forcing her to stop. The man instantly whipped around, catching my wrist and forcefully removing it from the woman. Grasping from the pressure, my eyes met his as he lowered his voice threateningly. Don't touch. Do not ever touch her unless you are given permission. The anger emanating from his voice was such contrast to the musical lilt. I couldn't help but be mesmerized. I found myself nodding my head before I knew what I was doing. Close up, he didn't look so old any longer. His skin was flawless and had an almost porcelain-like quality to it. But his eyes were deep jade caverns, holding centuries worth of secrets within them. My eyes were getting heavy. fleeing up, flinging my hand out of his grasp as if it was the most revolting thing in the world. The man turned from me and briskly started walking away. The woman gave me a pitying look before following suit. Strange. Glancing over my shoulder, I kept hoping to see the circle of embers that brought me here. Maybe if I looked long enough, it would reappear again. But it didn't. No such luck. Facing forward once more, the little old couple was getting farther and farther away the more I delayed. Oh well, there was no use in waiting around for another fiery circle to open midair. Might as well follow them and figure out why they brought me here to begin with. The anticipation was killing me. I could feel the dread taking over my body. There must be a reason after all. Even if they did seem a few pages loose of a book, maybe they wanted to kill me. The thought of that sent shivers down my spine as I made a mental debate about trying to run out of fear. I knew it would be ridiculous since I had no idea where I was, but the thought of walking into something I had no clue about was terrifying. On top of the whole magic existing thing, I was surprised I wasn't already freaking out, on the outside at least. How in the hell were they walking across the surface of the snow like that? It's like they were gliding, and here I was doing my best not to face plant again. And damn, it was freezing. Wait up. I managed to get through gritted teeth. Other than a glance over the shoulder from the woman, neither bothered answering me. After a few more falls and getting my clothes completely soaked, the woman eventually returned to my side. Looking into her face, I realized she was more ethereal, beautiful than the man. With the wind whipping the snow around us, she was the definition of a true snow queen. Hold still. I'll use my witchy voice for her. Hold still. Even her voice had a sophisticated. Well, I guess I won't be using that one. Let's try the queen voice. Hold still. Even her voice had a sophisticated regency that couldn't be faked. Hauling me to my feet, she kept a warm, steadying hand on my arm before turning to the man. So delicate, I was afraid she was going to break from just touching me. How was her hand so warm? Callum, she can't handle the journey. She doesn't have a choice, he snapped, raising his chin at this tone. His eyes narrowed to slits as she regarded him quietly. Finally, the man named Callan sighed, relenting. We can't get any closer to the castle with magic, my love. You know as well as I, the barriers won't allow it. He reached out a hand to caress her cheek, instantly making her melt into this touch. Strange. She appeared so self-assured, yet instantly calmed from this man's contact. They don't seem to be human, what with the magic and everything, but they sure do seem to base decisions on their emotions, just like the humans. Sighing, the woman turned toward me yet again, cupping my face in both of her delicate hands. Transfixed by the emerald hues in her eyes, I vaguely registered the warmth seeping into my body. With every inch the heat traveled, the green in her eyes slowly diminished from a vibrant neon to a fresh spring green to a deep forest shade. Gradually returning to my senses, I noticed the chill had completely left my body. Looking up to the woman in front of me, I was ready to ask a million questions, but none were coming out of my mouth. I stood there, gaping like a fish in the face of her overpowering serenity. All I received for my efforts was an indulgent smile that told me she knew when what I was thinking. Well, at least I didn't have to say it. My name is Tara, little one. Her voice all but sang to me. I am. That's enough. Callum's voice came out deeper and sterner than I expected to hear out of him. We need to get moving before a storm rolls in. Blowing out a breath of exasperation, Tara beamed another smile at me before taking my hand. Come, my magic should keep you warm, keep you toasty enough for the rest of the trip to the castle. Not quite sure what was going on, I allowed her to lead the way. What else was I supposed to do? It wasn't as if I could jump back through the non existing portal. And yes, I might be shell shocked from what I've been seeing, but there's no doubt in my mind that's what it was. Unless, of course, I was dreaming, but that'd be one hell of a dream. And quite frankly, I don't believe I'm creative enough. I could feel the same tingly warmth coursing through my body as I walked along beside the couple. That must have been what she meant by magic. With the warmth, I could also feel my body becoming lighter. I wasn't floating exactly. My feet were still making impressions in the snow. It felt more like gliding along the surface. Whatever it was, at least I wasn't falling on my face any longer. Now that I was able to actually get a good look around me, I couldn't stop staring. There were snowbanks as far as I could see. It wasn't snowing, but the wind was picking up a little bit in speed, causing many flurries to kick up around our small party. Off to our right, there was a family of penguins having races sliding down the banks. On the left, I noticed a family of polar bears making their way toward the castle off in the distance. I was too far away to see the building properly, but there was no doubt it was massive. The air glistened around us in the sunlight, turning brilliant shades of blue across a vast length of sky. The magical place was the very definition of a winter wonderland. What am I doing here? Finally gaining the courage once again to ask, I looked over toward Tara, hoping she'd be the one most likely to answer. Seeing the hesitation on her face, I pressed on. Why did you bring me here, Ms. Grinning a smile from her, she patted my hand as she answered, It's remarkably better than no reaction at all. Oh, no, dear. No, Mrs. It's just Tara. Elves don't have last names. Oh, I'm sorry, came my automatic response from years of manners ingrained into my behavior. I didn't mean to be rude or presumptuous. I just wait. What did you say that? What did you say? I didn't hear that right. Did I? There's no way she said elves. The portal must have messed with my hearing. Portal. I traveled through a portal. Why were elves so unbelievable if I could wrap my head around a portal? Attempting to keep up with my scatterbrained thoughts, I tripped over my feet and would have had yet another faceplant if Tara hadn't come caught me. Oh dear, are you all right? Concern etched across her face, which confused me. She's known me for a whole 5 minutes. Why would she be so concerned? Yes, thank you. I managed to rasp out my throat. I can't believe I feel like gliding on snow. How embarrassing. Not wanting to make eye contact, I made sure to keep my head down as we picked up where we left off. Clearing my throat in an attempt to to give myself a moment's more thought, I restarted the conversation. Elves? Tara glanced at me with a smile. Yes, dear. But shouldn't you have pointed ears? Wow, I sounded so ridiculous. Cowan must have thought so too if his scoff was anything to go by. Don't feel bad, Aubrey, she soothed, giving him the nastiest glare I've ever seen. It's a perfectly reasonable question. She shouldn't She shouldn't even need to ask that question, he responded brusquely, receiving another glare for his effort. What do you mean by that? I questioned. That's definitely not something I already know. They both looked at me, not answering. Right? Are these two strangers really making me question my own memories? Never slowing their pace, Tara slowly replied as she had waved her hand in the air. We have pointed ears, dear. The movements made a small circle similar to the ones in the coffee shop, only this time there was no embers shooting out. Instead, it looked like tiny ice crystals forming in the air along the path of her hand movements. When they disappeared, there was no mistaking the distinctive shape of her ears. Callan's, too. Not only the ears either. When I took a closer look, they didn't appear to be a little old couple any longer. They were young and thriving with energy, as if their entire beings were bursting with life. Their hair transformed to an ivory color similar to my own, stretching down their entire back. They definitely weren't little anymore either. Oh no. It wasn't as if they grew taller. It was more like my own eyes were finally being opened and I could clearly see the differences in our heights. They were beautiful. So damn beautiful. I couldn't peel my eyes away. See what you did? Callum turned to Tara. We should have waited until we were at the castle. Navorlus should have been the one to explain everything. Oh, pish, love. She had a right to know, and it's better this way. You know how Nick can be. Warmth encompassed my cheeks, but I wasn't able to move. I tried to speak, to take another step. I'm sorry, y'all. To adjust my legs. But it's as if I had been devastatingly sucker punched. Aubrey, sweetie, can you hear me? Of course she can. She isn't deaf, just shocked. How terrible, Callum. Poor thing. This is all her weakling mother's fault. If she had just been honest. My mother? What does this have to do with my mother? I tried to ask, but again, got nowhere. Enough, wife. His voice sounded more authoritative than I've heard from him yet. Just then, something touched my hand. It was soft, oh, so soft and comforting. All I wanted to do in that moment was to wrap whatever it was in my arms and cuddle under a blanket. My fingers wouldn't even move. What the hell was wrong with me? Look, Aubrey. Yeah. Look, Aubrey. Tara sounded so excited about something. I wonder what it was. It took every effort I had to attempt to move my head, but that wasn't successful either. He is worried about you, dear. He came over to make sure you were here. What? Who? Before I could blink, a massive white fluff ball appeared in front of my face with a huge mouth showing deadly teeth. All at once, everything went black as voices vaguely called my name. There it was again, the softness that felt like stroking a fluffy cloud. Only this time, I could move my fingers to pet it more. My eyes flew from when its sudden movements took me by surprise. Slowly, I retracted my hands and sat up so I wouldn't start on whatever it was that was intent on being so damn comforting. Holy shit! Instantly flinging myself backwards, I toppled out of the gigantic bed, banging my head on the floor in the process. Fuck! cradling my head in my hands. I rubbed the sore spot, hoping to relieve some of the pain where I felt a cold wetness slide down the length of my arm. Maybe if I'd stayed as still as possible, it would go away. Maybe it would have mercy and not eat me. When I felt the wetness again, I couldn't control the scream that belted out of me as I ran to the door, flinging it open, intending on getting as far away as possible. No such luck. Soon as I stepped outside, I collided into another door. At least it felt like a door. But when I looked for piercing, iridescent eyes, I recognized it as most definitely not a door. You're being very loud. If I thought Tara's voice was soothing, this man was exactly the opposite. The sound crawled over my skin, wrapping around me, circling my heart, and squeezing tight, leaving me gasping for breath. The way he looked down his nose as he assessed me told me that I was nothing more than a nuisance and he'd rather be anywhere but here. His clothing was intricately designed with white snowflakes. All right, yeah, I'm getting ready to have to stop. So as soon as I get to a good stopping point here. Patterns over a blue fabric and an open collar, prominent cheekbones accentuated his regal nose, highlighting the alabaster skin tone, bringing notice to his pointed ears. Damn, was he gorgeous. Even sexier than the men on Mom's smut books, as long as I ignored the intense dislike emanating from his body. With that thought in my head, I could feel my body getting hotter the longer he stared at me. Fingers twitched to reach out and caress the front of his face. What a strange reaction to his hatred. And I'm going to stop there because there's not an end for many more pages. And I don't know if you guys can see my eyes, but I'm about to lose it. Alrighty, so $2.99, and it's also on KU. So it's called Nicholas's Nightmare, The Midnight Hour, Book 2. The first one is Aiden's Awakening. So go get both books if this is your thing. Some people like this stuff, some people don't. Hey, CE, you made it. Oh, no problem. I enjoyed it. I wished I'd been able to get into some of the voices a little more because I have some really good voices for some of these things, but it was very good. Thank you. All righty. So, did you girls say you sent me the book that I'm reading Sunday? I thought I didn't read that one. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, the will to serve. Yeah, something, but I thought. Okay, maybe I do have the book. I thought I'd read that one already. I don't know. We'll see. I'll check. Alrighty, so Sunday, I'm not doing a live read tomorrow night because it's New Year's. I want all of you to enjoy New Year's. I am going to be in that room next door sawing some logs. I guarantee it. And praying for it. But I want the rest of you to enjoy it. Read a book, have some champagne, have some liquor, whatever your thing is. Nina, keep your panties out of the woods. Jackie, no lampshades, please. And I don't have to tell Vince anything. She's got Sir with her. He'll keep her ass straight. And I will be reading Pixie Stormcrow. Am I saying that right? Gosh, I don't even know anymore. A will to something another. So her books are about BDSM. So if you like that kind of thing, show up Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Again, CE, thank you so much for letting us read this tonight. It's very cute, very different. I don't get these kind of books very often, so I liked having the different. That was really good. Ori, it's all your fault, so just deal with it. All righty. So I'm going to bed. I mean, I'm literally going from here to the bed. So you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm going to try to get some sleep. And I gotta go take my medicine first before I go to bed. And you guys have a good evening. And those that have an assignment from me, happy reading. I said that already.